So joining me now, we have Richard Hasson, professor of law and political science at UCLA Law School, also an MSNBC election analyst. Thanks for joining me, Rick. So give me a sense of the risks. What are they for Elon Musk and his super PAC if he continues with his sweepstakes? Does it violate federal election law, or does it come right up to the line?
I think there's a very good argument that it does violate federal election law, which says that you can't pay people to register to vote or to vote. And if you look in the Department of Justice's own election crimes manual, it describes lotteries as the kind of thing that you're not allowed to do, which is why the warning letter went out. What we're seeing now, just in the last day or so, from the Musk PAC is a switch to say, if you get the $1 million, you're being hired as our spokesperson. Paying someone to be a spokesperson, that would not violate federal law. And so they're trying to recast what they're doing, but it's a little odd because they're making the offer of employment after they've given away the lottery winnings. But I think after the election, it's possible that he could face some criminal liability. There's a charge of up to 5 years in jail and up to $10,000 fine for each violation. I think jail time is probably unlikely in this circumstance, but if this doesn't get deterred, then I think we'll see a lot more of this kind of activity in future elections.
God, I wonder if he would care about a $10,000 fine for each incursion, right? But that said, we have the election 10 days away. Kamala Harris was asked this week about her plan if Trump repeats what he did in 2020, which is prematurely and or falsely declare victory before all the votes are counted. So here's what she said.
I'm very much grounded in the present in terms of the task at hand, and we will deal with election night and the days after as they come, and we have the resources and the expertise and the focus on that as well.
So you have teams ready to go? Is that what you're saying? Are you thinking about that as a possibility?
Of course. This is a person, Donald Trump, who tried to undo a free and fair election, who still denies the will of the people.
So, Rick, your article in Slate this week, which feels kind of like a public service announcement, it warns about a Trump victory speech and how a blue shift or red mirage could result in confusion, in conspiracies, and potentially in political violence. What should we be prepared for?
Well, what we saw in 2020 was that votes from people who voted in person were reported first, and votes from people who voted by mail were reported later. And because more Democrats were voting by mail, we saw this so-called blue shift, where Trump appeared to have a lead, and then it later changed days later. And Trump declared victory in the middle of that. So we could see that again. We don't know what the election results are going to look like, but that's definitely possible. And it's kind of a dangerous time because then there's all this attention with people wondering, why have the vote totals changed? Why does it look like a Trump lead changing to a Harris lead or something like that? And so the message really from the media should be that the race is too early to call, that people need to have patience. They need to wait. It wasn't until Saturday after Election Day in 2020 when we knew who was going to win the election. And it could be maybe Thursday or Friday this time around. We have a little bit less vote by mail, but there could be a period of uncertainty if it is as close as the polls suggest that it could be.
Yeah, indeed. So we have more than 38 million early votes now have already been cast in this election. How could the different processing and all the vote counting laws in different states complicate the numbers coming in on Election Day, and in fact, any of the counting days after?
Well, so two things are different. First, fewer people are going to vote by mail this time. A lot of people voted by mail last time because of the pandemic. And also, Trump was discouraging early voting last time. He's encouraging it this time. So while we see the numbers going up, it's very hard to look at those numbers and figure out if it really means anything in terms of who's got any kind of benefit. But I think the key point is to be patient. All the votes will be in, but they take time to be processed, and not every state moves quickly. And especially Pennsylvania, Wisconsin have special rules that delay the processing of their mail-in ballots. And so those are two crucial states. And those are states where it's very unlikely, if the race is close, that we're going to be able to know who the winner is going to be by, say, the time we wake up on the day after Election Day.
Yeah, I think we're going to be having a nail-biting few days for sure. All right, Rick Hasson, thank you so much for weighing in. Appreciate that.